went ahead and took all my tools and everything out of those cabinets, off the top of there, plus off the surface of my workbench. And I'm gonna try to reorganize slash redo my shop. I'm gonna take down these cabinets, recut them, try to put a French cleat system up there so things are a lot more nicer looking. So let's get started. So this cabinet has been here for as long as I've been alive, and it's relatively sturdy, but it needs to come down. I'm not sure what the best way to do this is. I think this is just nailed into studs. So I'm going to pry it off the top and see what happens. Got hurt. I think the best thing on here is going to be these doors. There's 3 of them. It looks like solid wood. Solid wood is salvageable wood. Yeah. Do I paint that? Well, I'm not gonna just leave this. And I found this old can of paint in my garage, so we're gonna paint this. Just one coat, hopefully. I'm gonna scrape all this junk off, throw a coat of paint on there and see what happens. And in addition to the French cleats, I wanted to put a permanent shelf way up top, just to have that to throw stuff that I don't really use all that often onto. And the brackets that I'm screwing in now are really the only thing I bought for this project outside of screws. I tried to hit studs. I probably didn't land all my screws into studs, and that's alright. If the shelf comes down, I'll do a better job next time. Now, if you don't already know, French cleats are basically 2 strips of wood whose edges are cut at 45-degree angles and they interlock together. And so to make your French cleats, you need to rip out some strips of wood. In my case, I'm cutting these doors into 5-inch strips, and then I'll rip each of those strips in half at a 45-degree angle, and those are going to be my French cleats. And there's definitely a safer way to make this type of cut, but I also really like the way that my fingers kind of look like a spider crawling across the wood during these fast motion shots. So I'm going to be careful and continue to do this. And now we're putting up the French cleats. Pretty simple. Off camera, I made a level line where I wanted the cleat to go, so I just had to line up the cleat and send a screw through there. Again, trying to hit studs as best that I could. And I didn't like the paint on these, so I stripped it off with a angle grinder with a sanding disc on it. Sent all that lead paint up into the air. Builds character or something. And I got these strips out of an old piece of plywood. It wasn't part of the cabinet, but still some scrap I had lying around that I figured I'd put to use. Now, the very tip of all these cleats was pretty sharp, pretty splintery, so I just took this little rasp plane across all the tips and knocked that edge over. I figure over time it was going to get worn down anyways, so if I could take it off, prevent myself from getting splinters, I might as well do that. And then we'll suck out all the sawdust that was built up inside the cleats. That way our shelves can mate nicely in there. And making the shelves was pretty simple, honestly. Just build a shelf with a back and then attach a cleat to the back of your shelf and you're good to go. It took maybe 2 shelves for me to get comfortable with it. Yeah, pretty easy, pretty customizable. I really like it. Now, just a little tip if you're going to be hanging something with holes, like on a peg, make sure that peg isn't sticking like perpendicular straight out from the wall because there's a good chance that your stuff's going to fall out. So have it angled upward. To do that, I cut a strip out of a 2x4 so it was angled upward at 15 degrees. Stuck those pieces of a chair leg on there, and that holds my saws now.
Well,